Hi, everybody. Welcome to my favorite shitty movie. It's a very, very exciting episode of my favorite shitty movie. Tonight, we're doing a movie called Devil in the Flesh 2. And this is a movie that I am in. Here's proof of that. There it is. There's me with the guy, Bill Gratton, playing my dad. And you can see Amazon very helpfully put up, my picture and name and the character I'm playing right there, which is exciting. I looked at because Amazon has like when you're done with the movie, it suggests other ones, and then it has a list of the people involved in the movie and other stuff that's on Amazon that you can watch. And I took a little video of what the algorithm showed about my career according to Amazon. Here, look. There's a lot of me on Amazon. You you should get a Prime membership so you can look at me more often. Anyway, the other thing that's kind of fun about tonight is we have our first ever sponsor in this product called Magic Mind. It's a mental performance shot. I'm going to take one right now, so my mental performance is good for the show, and we'll check back in later to see how I feel about my mental acuity. I don't know what you. I drank it. They sent me a bunch of these things in the mail, and I've been trying them, and they actually do kind of work for me. But we'll touch on that later. Let me bring up our guest co-host and the guy who I forced to watch Devil in the Flesh 2 for the first time. He's a writer and he's a producer, and he's wonderful. His name is Mark Haynes.
Hello, and thank you.
You're welcome.
That's pronounced Carlet, as we will get into.
Yes.
As we will get into in the movie.
So you had never seen Devil in the Flesh 2 before?
No, and I was quite nervous about starting with the second film in a franchise, because everything's a cinematic universe. That's what we're trained to believe. It's like I can't see number 2 without seeing number 1. Thank you, Marvel.
Yeah. Yeah, cinematic universes kill things that are good. It's weird. The most recent obvious example is Ghostbusters. I didn't see Ghostbusters Frozen Empire or whatever it's called because I saw Ghostbusters Afterlife, and I had gone to see a comedy film and I didn't get one. So I'm not going to go see...
Even with Paul Rudd, you didn't?
No, Paul. I love Paul Rudd so very much. But no, he didn't. He couldn't save it. He couldn't save Afterlife.
What's funny about Paul Rudd, I think, is that he has the abilities. Like when he's on, he's really funny. But I think when he goes for like sweet or endearing, it's a danger to diabetics in the audience, because it's like mainlining cake frosting, or something like that. So yeah. I don't know. There's no in between. You got to be ready.
I think my favorite Rudd performances, Marvel kind of sucked him up, and I don't like it when Marvel takes my funny actors away from me,
right?
And makes them work out, and like,
well, it gives the
Kumail Nanjiani too. It's like I don't want in shape Kumail Nanjiani. I want funny. A little bit tubby.
They take the funny actors and then give them unfunny lines, which is not cool.
Yeah, don't do that. Yeah. For me, Rudd's, the first time he made me die laughing was in Wet Hot American Summer.
Yeah.
Especially that scene where Janine Garofalo, it tells him to pick up the trash that he's thrown on the floor. And he has this like toddler meltdown of "Ugh!" It's so goddamn funny. And John
Fixing
Keating,
my
who was
chair.
on the show a couple weeks ago, he said he thinks Role Models is the best comedy so far this century.
Oh, I haven't seen that. I gotta see that.
It's really I mean, I was racking my brain. I mean, I think there's a lot of good comedies out there, but it may be the funniest one of the century. It is really funny. He's great in it, and it has a little bit of that sacchariness that you're talking about.
Yeah.
But it comes later and through him learning stuff about his douchey self. Through
The
the
soundtrack in my mind just changed to that music of where you're learning something about yourself.
In Role Models, it works. That doesn't always work for me, but in Role Models, it definitely does. Jeff Luce says Rudd was great on Friends, but I Love You Man and Role Models are his two favorite. I Love You Man is really funny too.
That reminds me of a meme I saw just moments before the show started, talking about how the cast of Friends are now all older than the women that were on the Golden Girls. And I'm just like, okay, thanks.
I'm older than the women who are on the Golden Girls. I'm older than Estelle Getty was at the time of that.
I think you could take her if it came down to it.
Stop her, my mom will shoot.
That's right. Well, it's on top of that I start getting ads for Forest Lawn in my social media, which is like, I wasn't considering cremation, thanks, until I saw your stupid ad.
You got me thinking.
Yeah. Now, well, okay, sure, why not?
So, and you've never seen Devil in the Flesh?
No,
the original with Rose McGowan.
And as you can inform the audience, I was texting you and commenting that I was very nervous about jumping into the second film, as I said at the top,
without
of the show.
knowing. Yeah, cinematic universes are important. What's interesting about this movie is that when I was working on it, it was called Teacher's Pet.
Okay.
And I had no idea that there was a movie called Devil in the Flesh with Rose McGowan until it was explained to me that the producer and writer of Devil in the Flesh, who was also producer and writer of Devil in the Flesh 2, aka Teacher's Pet, he just basically was remaking the same movie again, with intentions of just not making it a sequel, pretending it's its own thing. But
I guess he felt like George Lucas had done that and done pretty well. So
yeah.
Maybe I was like, I mean, it's certainly a time saver as a writer.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'll give him this. I think if you compare the two, Devil in the Flesh 2 is a way more streamlined, exploitation thriller than the first one was. Maybe what I'm saying is the first one might have some more layers. Hi, Kitty. Yeah. More layers, but with this type of movie, I think keeping it without layers is a better thing.
Oh, I agree. This is
in the first one, Rose McGowan sort of gets pushed into being a psycho killer.
Right.
In this movie, it just starts and she's a psycho killer. I mean, maybe she's being abused by a nurse or something, but
Oh yeah. Well, you turn in the the credits are rolling, and we're getting interstitials between the credits, kind of giving us what I assumed was backstory from the previous film, which now I know is not the case. But at the time, it's like I and then of course partway through the film, I start making notes of like, I think I'm just going to start writing and producing films that have the number 2 at the end of it and make people think there was a number 1 by doing these kind of interstitial scenes. It's brilliant. But when it opens at night with the and on the mental hospital with the razor wire and
panning across the
it's a great shot. It's just kind of moving along, and I'm
actually Marcus Spiegel, the director.
Yes.
I thought put a lot of nice touches into this.
It looked great. They like there
Yeah.
were a lot of great shots in this film, like well lit and kind of interesting angles and things. I mean, he did have some like 1966 Batman angles, Dutch
Yeah,
angles.
he was doing those Dutch angle things a
That
little
was
bit.
fine though. I was just kind of like,
I like it. I mean, like
yeah,
liven the thing up with the camera and mess around. I think this is the exact kind of movie to fuck around with camera angles and rack focusing and all that.
yeah.
Kind
If
of
you're gonna try something, well, there were some great shots, especially later in the film as she's listening, kind of eavesdropping on a conversation, and they do one of these kind of,
yeah,
they're back in the room and she's in the foreground. You're like, wow, it's cool.
yeah. I have a photo of that. Well, let's start at the beginning. So
Yeah,
so the
yeah.
hospital's going on, and then we meet this guy who's a very recognizable. That's the other thing I love about this movie is all the very recognizable character guys they got. Including the guy who plays my father, Bill Grattan, who I was also in Blast from the Past, which I was in. So we were in two different movies together. But this guy's just in the opening scene, basically saying we've got a serious problem with this psycho who's obsessed with one of the doctors.
Yes.
And then all hell breaks loose.
It does, and rather quickly,
Yeah.
she manages. Yeah, she's like swinging the syringes, and of course, as you said, this is Nurse Bates laying there with a syringe sticking out of her neck, and
Yeah.
she says gotten a handsy with her patient, Debbie Strand, more than once.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And that happens really quickly. She kills everybody in the hospital, basically, and then busts out, and then you cut to this lady.
Yes,
who's not Jodie Lynn O'Keefe, but looks a lot like her.
Correct. Which was confusing for me for a minute.
and yeah, it was confusing to me too. And I was in this movie. But it started, and one of the things I always remembered about Jodie Lynn O'Keefe's performance in this that I love is she really works it with her tongue. She does a lot of tongue acting, and so they found her doppelganger who's also doing the tongue acting. I thought that was brilliant casting or brilliant direction. I don't know.
Before I realized it wasn't her, my first thought was she killed at least 3 people and still found time to put her makeup on before she stole the car at the hospital. That wasn't what happened, but that was what I thought, because I was like, this movie clearly, like, just from those first few minutes, you're like, anything goes in this world. Like, it's just gonna happen.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah.
So she thinks she hit somebody.
I believe, yeah, I know she's kind of, of course, driving through the night.
Going to college. She's going to college.
Right.
Sometimes you drive at night to get to college. I don't know. I mean, a
lot of people, in full makeup.
Yeah, of course. Road trips require full makeup. You could get pulled over. You don't want to look like shit. So she thinks she hit someone. She gets out. She doesn't find anyone. She gets back in her car, and then who's in the car with her?
Right, and this happens a couple times. Like Jodie Lynn O'Keefe just pops up in people's rooms and in their cars, and just to cut to the startled reaction, like, "Who are you? What are you doing here?"
Yeah. So, and she's got a sob story about her husband or
parents. I think it might have been.
Maybe it was parents.
I think it's her father, actually.
Yeah, my father wants to kill me. Don't call the cops. That always works when people, when I'm helping someone out and I'm like, I should call the police, and they go, no, don't call the cops. I'm always like, okay, that's totally fine. We won't call the cops. I always call the cops. Why wouldn't you call the cops? It's a crazy person.
One of these, it needs to be in a film now where somebody does finish the call and they call the cops, and like the 911 operator's like, no, I'm sure it's fine. You can.
He told you not to call the cops. Why'd you call the cops?
Did they ask you not to call the cops and you did anyway?
You're tying up our lines.
Yeah.
There are real emergencies out there.
Real emergency, sir. Click.
So one of my favorite moments. Okay, so as I understand it, the investors of this film at a certain point requested that there be more nudity.
Oh yeah, we got that
in the film. So for the most part, there's one scene later in the movie where one of the lead actresses is actually topless in a sex scene, but all the other shoehorned in nudity is randos that have nothing to do with the narrative.
One of the scenes I noticed was blurred.
Was it?
Yeah. Do you want me to wait until we get to that sequence?
Yeah. Wait.
Yeah. Okay.
Tell me that later.
Which I thought was an odd choice considering everything that had come before.
Yeah,
but,
and then
it could be the actress's, agreement or deal or whatever.
I think a number of the actresses had no nudity clauses in their contracts because they knew what they were getting into, and a couple of them who, maybe go to take a shower because of the aspect ratio. You can see the tops of the thing covering their. I don't know what.
Well, I think there's that and a little bit of the overscan. Because when this movie was done and came out, tube TVs were still a thing. So I think there was probably part of that. And it seemed to me like Jodie Lynn O'Keefe, at least a lot of her scenes where she was in the All Together with the character we will meet later, looks like it was cut like she's using a body double.
Yeah, it might have been. But they also, she doesn't, like that character, you don't see her actually naked.
No, right.
You see her taking stuff off and being hot with Zhu Garcia,
right?
Who, I gotta tell you, everybody on this movie was a delight. I loved everybody on this movie.
They all seemed into it, which I really appreciated. Watching this movie,
It was. I really feel like it was a cast of people who knew what kind of movie they were making and were having a good time selling it. Because part of the reason I love it so much is, I got to be in an exploitation film. I grew up loving exploitation films. So, I would be happy with a career on Sci-Fi Channel, terrible CGI monster movies. That would make me happy, but I was never on Dukes of Hazzard, so I don't.
I'll tell you, I did look at this movie, as you call it, an exploitation movie, and I'm like, who's exploiting who?
Yeah, exactly. Jeff points out that this is Zhu Garcia's third appearance on our show because he was in Vampire in Brooklyn, and Along Came Polly. I did not know that until Jeff.
Everybody in this film was awesome, I thought.
Everybody was giving a dedicated performance.
Yeah.
And I genuinely think that these are good actors.
Exactly. I agree.
So, kudos to the director, Marcus Spiegel, and producer Richard Brandis for getting this cast together for this low budget, made for cable, late night cable TV movie. It's craftsmanship. It goes a long way.
You put a good group. You put a good group together.
Yeah, exactly. And everybody was really cool. We were, everybody treated me like I was one of the stars. So it was, that's always nice. Especially when you mostly work in commercials where the star is a hamburger. And
to be fair, I know actors who've described major motion pictures where the star was also a hamburger.
Well, yeah, that's true. Yeah,
but I know what you mean. I know where you're going with it. Yeah.
I love doing commercials, and I don't want to. It's just when you're a commercial actor, you're like way down on the list of importance. Whereas if you work on a TV show or a movie, then you are above the line, as they say in the business. Even though you're getting probably paid worse than a lot of the crew. But you look good. So they're on this sudden road trip, these two.
Yeah.
And they stop at a gas station because not Jodie Lynn O'Keefe has to, use the bathroom, and she's getting kind of nervous about Jodie Lynn O'Keefe. And I just love it. Just there, it cuts, and you just are seeing this couple having sex.
Right.
Probably, middle-aged somewhere woman on a 20-something hick guy. Just the total it's like a scene in Body Double.
Well, the fact that they drive up to a gas station. This is supposed to be a contemporary film in 2000. They drive up to a gas station. It looks like it's from the pumps are from the 1950s, and it's in this ramshackle kind of falling apart building, which I'm sure passes state regulations for wherever this took place. Yeah. But yeah, they're going to town on a car seat, an old car seat.
Yeah,
and it cuts back and forth.
And right? It's one of these. Yeah, it cuts back and forth to her trying to get in the bathroom. She can't get in the bathroom. She approaches the door, looks through the window, and is like calling at them, and they're having sex. And they, they're finally like, what's going on?
Well, I like the fact that the guy jumps up. The guy jumps up like he's gonna help her, and then ends up pulling a curtain across the window. Just like totally random, like just hold it, or just pee in the woods. It's dark. There's nobody's gonna see it. Just go.
I love sex scenes too, where the guy remains fully clothed. And the lady's bottoms are on, but she's still they've worked it out, and then she's topless because that's the hottest.
Yes, that's where I was like, okay, I need to find out the broadcast and transmission history of this film, because I was like, this segue was so ham-handed as it had to have been a cable movie.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and like I said, they were fulfilling requests from their investors. So they were like, all right, we'll just have a couple fucking at a gas station before we kill fake Jodie Lynn O'Keefe, who so they get in a fight. I love that photo.
Her eyes are so pale blue as they look like kind of unreal, actually.
Yeah. She does have those piercing pale
like
blue
Meg Foster eyes,
She was, she like in between when we were waiting for shit to happen, she would have me hang out in her trailer with the door open because, she was dating Don Johnson at the time. I didn't want to fuck with that. She played his daughter on Nash Bridges. And at the time of this film, they were dating, which is that weird?
It's kind of weird. It's sort of weird. It's like it shouldn't be weird, but it feels weird.
I mean, there's the December,
I've listened to enough true crime podcasts that it's not that weird anymore.
Yeah, no, I guess not. I mean, there's the December January thing happening, but I don't know. It's just so weird that
they're not in the same year. That's the problem. What's December of 1960? There's January of 75.
Yeah, and it's just weird that they play related people, and I don't know. It's just weird. I don't know. I don't know what to tell you, but
not the first time it's happened, I'm sure.
No, absolutely not. And both great actors. I'm a big Don Johnson fan as well. Dead Bang is one of my favorite underrated movies from the 80s.
There is I don't remember the name of the actor, but it was one of the guys that Don Johnson's character was chasing in that movie, and he was the crazier, more dangerous of the two people he was chasing.
Yeah.
And that I wish I could remember that actor's name, but he's really good.
Yeah, everybody's good in that movie. It's a good movie, and it has one of my favorite foot chases. You don't get those in movies anymore. They don't do foot chases.
What's that about? I
don't know, but I like foot chases, and I think they're fun to shoot. Like probably more fun than car chases because there's a little less of the making sure nobody dies thing.
They certainly can't be as expensive as a car chase.
No, and he's like in Dead Bang, he's the classic alcoholic cop, and he's chasing this perp, and it goes on for a while. It's a good chase scene, but when he finally gets him, he cuffs him, and then he barfs all over him because he's terribly hungover.
Because he's drunk when he's chasing him. Yeah,
he's hungover. Yeah, it's so good. I highly recommend Dead Bang if you have not seen that. So anyway. These two get in a fight, and then the death is accidental.
It's the only accidental death in the movie, right?
Yeah. Well, isn't there another almost accidental death? I feel like no, maybe not. Yeah, maybe not. But she's defending herself. Well, we'll get to it later. But there's this guy who she runs into shortly after this. Poor lady falls backwards into a pile of garbage that has what is that? Like a
rebar sticking out of it, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So, and then she decides to take her identity because why not?
Oh yeah.
She's rich. Her last name is Carlay.
Right? Yes, not Carly. Carlay.
Carlay.
Which a couple people pronounce Carly. It goes back and forth. I noticed in the movie.
Yeah, that'll happen. Oh, yeah, the roommate falls out of the window accidentally. That is.
That's true. That's true.
True. And yeah. Oh, anyway, so she runs into this guy when she's at the bank. She goes to the bank and gets out all this money from the Carleys.
Which I appreciated in the bank, that the money is stacked on the shelf behind the teller. It's just kind of like he's at a library and you're checking the money out.
I love stuff like that. It makes me happy.
Great.
Yeah. So she runs into this guy and he's like, oh, there's so many great character actor faces in this movie.
Well, I thought this guy was from the first film in some capacity because he kept saying, "I recognize you," and I was like, "Oh, there's a missing plot element. I'm missing some, something about this movie."
He's just another escaped mental patient. He recognizes her from the crazy place. Okay. So she gets her money, Carlay's money, out. And then
we should point out that it's established, I think, at this point that the Carlays are loaded, right?
Yeah, they're super rich and powerful. Yeah.
Which explains why she was driving herself to college late at night.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Anyway, I'm stuck on that as a plot point.
So then she's at her car. And getting into the car that she's stolen because the owner died, and then she runs into the college town deputy,
the long arm of the law,
because she's parked illegally, which she is parked illegally.
Yeah, there's no two ways about it. You're either parked illegally or you're not.
Yeah, exactly. And then the great Zhu Garcia. Zhu, I see all the time on the 101. It's the weirdest thing.
What?
I swear to God, ever since we made this movie, like every couple of years, I'll be on the 101 and there's Zhu Garcia going, hey! And I'm like, holy shit, Zhu, how are you doing?
Oh my God.
We ever see each other on the 101. It's so weird. But it's always
hysterical. Actually, that's the best. That's really great.
Yeah, it's him and Angeline. Those are the two people I see the most on the 101. I played cat and mouse with Angeline one time on the 101. It was fun.
I live near West Hollywood, and I will occasionally used to see her car around at this restaurant called the French Marketplace, which is long gone. And but she would I think that was like her regular meal. Like, she probably lives in an apartment that doesn't have a kitchen, or if it has a kitchen, the appliances have never been used, that kind of thing.
She's interesting.
Yeah.
There was like a kind of expose about Angeline, a ways back, which was sort of interesting.
Oh, I remember seeing it, but I never watched it because
Like,
she's still the Billboard model,
yeah,
from 40 years ago.
but she was like a child survivor of the Holocaust. According to this article I read, and then she came here, to get it because she escaped the Holocaust, and
Wow.
then reinvented herself as this whole other thing. But I don't know. She's interesting. I would love to see a really deep dive documentary into her, but she's hard to get to, I guess.
Yeah, yeah.
So Zhu anyway steps in and says to Deputy Toby that there's the sign that said it's illegal to park here was obscured by a tree branch.
Which I saw that, and it wouldn't get you anywhere in Los Angeles, I can tell you
that. It's ridiculous. Yeah, no, it's that doesn't matter in Los Angeles. But this is a fantasy film, really.
Yeah. Well, that's it. It cut in. Let's see, and this is okay. Continue, Todd. I won't interrupt.
No. Please. So this is when she meets Zhu, who is a professor at the university, and the person whose identity she stole is going to be in his class, and that's when she fixates on the guy who's getting trouble.
Just with a little bit of foreshadowing for the audience here. This is the beginning of his yes, I will. No, I won't. Yes, I will. No, I won't. And it's like, if she wasn't prepared, if she wasn't already killing people, like the kind of his push-pull, like with her, would make her kill people. I fully believe it's like, this is one of those situations where I was looking at it, and we'll get to this. We'll get to this in the climax. Yeah. So anyway, I don't want to derail it. Sorry.
So then she goes to college. I've got this photo of her walking into to college.
Is that guy wearing the bathrobe?
Yeah, it's a guy in a bathrobe.
Oh no, it's just okay, sorry.
I mean, but he's also, I know he's far away, but he's clearly at least 40.
Well, it's a community college. They didn't specify.
So she gets to school. This was like it's if you're on the 405 around where the Wilshire exit is.
Okay.
And there's this like whole complex that looks like an old hospital, right, or an old college, and it's
near the veterans, the VA hospital.
Yeah, and it's just
it's an old military complex. I actually was doing something. There's a group in Los Angeles called the Science and Entertainment Exchange. It's run by the National Academy of Science. Puts movie producers and writers together with scientists in the appropriate fields. And through that organization, I met a guy who was a liaison between the United States Navy and the entertainment industry. And we were going to go on a tour of some military facilities down San Diego. And we had to meet in the parking lot of the facility that you're talking about. Those used to be part of the VA hospital until they built that big modern building over there.
Okay. Yeah. That makes sense. I guess I've shot on shows over there too.
Yeah.
Like there's a greenhouse near there, I think, where
there was a writer on the tour from NCIS who said they had shot over there quite a bit.
It's used a lot. So in this movie, it's a college. Why not?
Yeah.
And the dorms are the interior of the dorms that you see in this movie were actually shot in a different location, which was an abandoned hospital as well.
It wasn't the Linda Vista Hospital, was it?
It might have been. That sounds familiar. Where is that?
That is the one that's over in East Los Angeles that's allegedly haunted.
That's it. That's the one. Oh. Yeah, they kept saying it was haunted. I was like,
oh my God, that's awesome. Oh wait, I think Jeff's got something here.
Oh, Jeff's got is that the hospital from Scribbler? It It might be. I don't know, Jeff. Scribbler's an amazing film, Mark, if you haven't seen it.
No,
Um,
like I said, I take notes on this show even when I'm on it.
yeah, Scribbler is batshit crazy. Yeah, watch it. It very well may be the same hospital, Jeff. I'd have to look that up on IMDb. Um, in any event, so hey, how does my mental performance? Does it seem like is it working for you? My mental performance
Right now,
because I took this shot at the beginning of the show, and it helps you with your mental.
I feel like you're moving faster through time than the rest of us at this point. No, it is. You're sharp. You're pulling out facts and figures.
I am. I do feel more focused. I know I took one of these before I rewatched Devil in the Flesh 2. And when I rewatch movies for this show that I've seen a bunch of times, it's very easy for me to get distracted and think about other things, especially if I'm in the movie, because I think there's like a psychological thing that pushes me into fantasizing about something else so I don't have to criticize my own performance. But I had one of those and I stayed with it and got all these damn photos. I actually have if you want to get some magic mind,
there's a link to the hospital in the chat.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, and there's if you use the code SHTTY shitty, you'll get a discount. So yeah, check out that in the comments and get some magic mind. Why not?
I'll tell you prior to finding out they were sponsoring tonight's episode, I had actually used this product before, and it's great. It actually tastes great. It looks like one of those shots that you pick up in the store and you're like, this is not going to be good, but I'm going to do it anyway.
Yeah, it's not like it tastes way better than 5 Hour Energy or whatever.
Yeah. No, I believe it's an organic product too,
yeah, there's like organically grown California mushrooms in here, which apparently takes care of your stress. It's also supposed to help you with your stress levels. And I don't feel terribly stressed right now.
And because you're calm, I'm calm.
There you go.
You don't even need to drink it yourself. You just need a friend of yours to drink it.
Yeah, exactly. Give it to the people that you love so they stop stressing you out. All right. So
they're going to want their $50 back.
Yeah, exactly. So, all right. So we meet, she gets the first place she goes when she's in college is to the professor's office. And she gives him a box of cigars,
which, for keeping from getting a parking ticket actually makes sense.
Yeah,
but yeah, she gives him a nice box of cigars, I believe. Yeah,
I think the fine for the parking would have been a lot less than that fancy box of cigars. But hey, she's got Carlet money, so why not?
Right. It's not her money. What does she care?
Yeah, and then she meets Carla,
right?
The professor's girlfriend that he's having troubles with.
Right.
And then the shot you were talking about, because she overheard him, is this.
Yeah. Well, I think this is actually from a little later in the movie, isn't it? Or no, you're right. This is right then. Yeah. This is where she finds out that Carla, played by Catherine Kendall, wants a little time away.
Another great performance, by the way.
She's really good in this movie. She really is. Like, all of her scenes are really great. She sells it very well, and it's almost as if she's not in the same movie.
Sometimes like maybe she's a little too good. But it's like, again, I thought everyone was good in this movie.
Yeah.
She had a little bit of a different job because she had to like be very relatable, and you had to care about her for the tension to work at the end. So maybe that's why it felt like she was in a different movie. But then Jodie Lynn O'Keefe goes to the dorms
Where did she? And this is my question: is like, where did she pick up the guy with the radio and the other guy?
I have
Like,
no idea.
there's no connection whatsoever.
And he's carrying a boombox, 1980s style,
Yes.
just for her to enter.
And it's actually facing the wrong way. It's the speakers are facing out instead of towards him. But that's fine. You know,
Well,
we're
it's for
nitpicking.
her.
We're nitpicking this movie.
Yeah, it's for her, not for him. And then we're quickly introduced to the RA. And she doesn't know. This is one of my favorite moments when Jodie Lynn O'Keefe's like, "What the fuck are you talking about?"
Yeah, right. Like, who are you
like,
and why are you in my way? Right.
She's
Well,
like,
you know,
"I'm the residence assistant." That's what.
What was funny too is that this is one of the scenes that, for the most part, this movie hangs together pretty well. But in this particular instance, you've stolen somebody's identity. Maybe you want to be a little bit under the radar. So this is not how you would be entering your dorm.
No,
generally, I would think. No,
but she's crazy.
So, right, she's not all there. So yeah, it's fine.
Yeah. So we meet the RA, and then shortly, who tells her that you're not allowed to have men in the dorms at this hour and no loud music.
Which for the year 2000 seems odd.
Yeah,
because you're not allowed to have men in the dorm at this hour and the sun is out.
Yeah, I have no idea. I don't know. It's a very weird school. It's both progressive and very regressive. It depends on the dorms are very regressive, but the professors are very
progressive. Well, this scene actually leads into one of the next what becomes a plot point, which is the fact that apparently not only is that you're in the regressive dorms, you're locked in at night with a door that sounds like, what do you expect to happen?
That's a fire hazard. You can't lock people in. That's not. You can't do that.
This and is in California, where every door in every public facility is labeled, "This door must remain unlocked" at the top of it.
Yeah. But the crazy RA has the only key to get in and out after hours. Why not? Why not? And then we meet probably the most important other character, other than Jodie Lynn O'Keefe, in her roommate.
Yes, this is Lainey.
Lainey, or Lamey, as they called her in high school. This actress is so nerded up. Like, if you look at pictures of her on IMDb, you're like, that's not what she looks like, but great job again with the makeup and wardrobe. And then almost immediately, Jodie Lynn O'Keefe decides to corrupt this innocent, nerdy scholarship student who can't get in trouble or she'll lose her scholarship. She'll get thrown out.
This movie then becomes kind of a combination of A Shock to the System meeting She's All That. Kind of a weird mix, but
totally. So they get drunk and then they look at porn, and then the drunker Lainey gets Jodie Lynn O'Keefe talks her into hacking into people's emails. Carla and Hugh Garcia's character hacks into their emails and sends bullshit messages to them to cause trouble, which Lainey doesn't know she's doing because she's really drunk.
Right.
And then all that, the like bad emails are happening and Jude's freaking out. And then we see Carla. I actually really like this scene where she's looking at a pregnancy test and it's obviously positive and she can't believe it, doesn't know what to do. And then she throws it out, revealing that the whole trash can in the bathroom is full of pregnancy tests.
Right.
So she's having a hard time accepting.
This is our first view of a house that she clearly inherited from her parents.
Yeah, exactly.
She's a single teacher who lives in a house for at least a family of 7.
Everybody in this movie is quietly rich. Maybe that's why Jodie Lynn O'Keefe goes crazy. So
as we will get to at the end, she has, if she wasn't crazy when she got there, she had reason to be at the end, but I'll leave it at that. So.
Right. So one of the things that was overheard in this moment is that he's playing at the Roadhouse, which is like the new movie Roadhouse. It's just called the Roadhouse. It's not called the Double Deuce. It's just called,
and that Zhu Garcia's Sam Deckner is a Renaissance man. Likes his cigars. He's a sensitive writer.
He's a writer, a literature professor, and he plays the blues at the Roadhouse. Look at him jamming out there. I like at the end.
Well, that shot is an example of what you were talking about. It's like there are a lot of shots in this movie that look really great. Like, I mean, they just really, they got a lot of value out of that shot.
For sure. Yeah. And that's pretty great. So they go to this, get drunker. They're drinking. What the hell are they drinking? Like some kind of.
Oh, I don't recall. I think I might have stepped out.
Very, very, like some kind of it's called an orgasm or something. Because Laney says, I've never had an orgasm before. But it's about the drink.
Right.
But it's probably also about actual orgasms. That's my takeaway.
And Jeff points out Carla's hair seems to be different in every scene.
Yeah, exactly. So they bail because it's looking like they're going to get busted by the bouncer who they tricked. How do they get in there? They run a distraction and they sneak in.
I thought they snuck in, and I thought they ran into that weird guy in the bar as well, but I guess I'm wrong.
No, yeah, you're right. They're getting their orgasm drinks, and he's there, and he's like, "Hey," he says it again. I know you. And
he's there with her. Like he's like really concerned. Like, why is she there? Like, I know you. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, he's worried. So then the bouncer comes in that they had distracted so they could sneak into the club.
Right.
He's caught on and he's pissed. So then they sneak out into the back alleyway where Laney barfs. She has a very serious.
Yeah, it's one of the better puking scenes in film.
Yeah, sadly, I had a puking scene in this film, and they removed the puking because they thought it was too much puking on top of. There was too much puking.
Oh,
is what they decided.
Oh dear.
But so the guy comes out into the alleyway who recognized her, and he's like, "Yeah, I know you. I know exactly who you are." Laney's barfing, so she doesn't notice any of this. And then Jodie Lynn O'Keefe gets in a big fight with this guy. He knocks her down. She knocks him down. And then when she gets up at one point, she has a board with nails in it.
And yes, conk.
I love this.
This is one of the best deaths in the movie. It's not the best one in the movie, other than the syringe to the neck.
Yeah, and his handwork, when he's like, it's so good.
Yeah.
I don't know. It reminded me of something else, but I can't remember what. There's some movie where like somebody's head gets torn off and they're still doing this. It reminded me of that. Maybe that was the Reanimator. In any event, so she kills the guy, gets Laney up, and gets back to the dorm. And the next morning, Laney's barfing in the bathroom. And she gives her Alka-Seltzer and also some kind of upper. I
literally don't remember this part of the movie.
she's barfing in the dorm, shared dorm room. Jodie Lynn O'Keefe gives her Alka-Seltzer and some pills, which ultimately make her feel better. But this is another moment in the movie where they're having their scene, and then for no reason at all, you see a 50-year-old naked woman who's, I guess, a co-ed at the college walks by in the background. No reason. We went to the casting crew screening of this, Hillary and I, and Hill was laughing so hard at some of this stuff that I started being like, maybe you shouldn't laugh this hard.
It's not supposed to be laughing. You're not supposed to be laughing right now.
I mean, I agree with you. That was funny, but yeah. So that happened, and then the next scene is the crime scene where the guy with the board in his head.
Right. And you're coming out to tell the sheriff you're your pop who what the witnesses may have seen or overheard.
Yes. And and if I don't know if you noticed, but throughout the scene, because originally it started with me barfing, basically the same barf that Lainey barfed. It was right. Chicken noodle soup. So I barfed. So for the whole scene, I'm playing it like I just barfed and I'm worried about barfing again. And I'm constantly, wiping.
I did notice that. And I thought you were just disturbed by how the guy had died, which I guess would have triggered the barf, your barfing that did not make it into the final cut.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. It's fine. It's just, I feel like when I watch it, I'm like, people are going to be like, what's wrong? What's wrong with them? But for me, it was, I had just barfed. That's
yeah.
So, we work out what we can, and then they go back to the dorm. We're back in the dorm, and Jody Lynn O'Keefe shows up, the RA, makes a fool out of her, gives her the key back, sort of thing, and she's not happy. And then Dad and me are working out theories.
That's right. This is the police work happening.
This was, I think, my first walk and talk scene.
Oh
yeah. In my career, like the procedural walk and talk.
Yeah.
And that's what this is. It's a procedural walk and talk, except, I don't have to say much because I'm a fucking idiot. So it's a great gig for me. So much of me is just horribly upstaging Bill. I kind of feel bad about that now. But
you are a scene stealer. You are.
Thanks. There's we go to, I love this guy's face.
Well, it's kind of, I mean, this is shot as if this is going to be some big reveal, like he's an important part of the film, and he's not really, right?
No, he's just a guy who gives information about, she came in and there was a cigar, or she bought some cigars. That's all it is. It's just basically a procedural scene. But he looks a lot like the guy. There's a guy who used to like mash his face in. Do you know what I'm talking about? He lip over here. And I did a beer commercial for Keystone Light with that guy. It was this campaign called Bitter Beer Face. And if you drink something other than Keystone Light, you turn into this guy. But I don't think it was this guy, but he reminded me of him. I didn't ask him to pull his lip up over his nose. I thought that would be rude.
Yeah. I wasn't going to try it. Don't worry.
Yeah. And then, Jody Lynn O'Keefe has worked stuff out for going to a party to really work it out with Shu Garcia. And there's another great shot. The picture I have is shitty because like pausing the TV, it would just come out blurry. But there's a scene of her walking away, having hatched her crazy plan, and she does this thing with her tongue. I don't know why I find it so much fun that she's.
I'll tell you, the key is to not pause it when you want to take a good picture.
Oh yeah, you're probably right.
Yeah,
I should have just flipped it, but usually it comes out a little blurry that way too. Yeah, it's all But anyway, so she goes to the party, and there's that guy with his face in hers is gonna soon be an attempted rapist. But she makes a fool out of him out of the party. She's mad. Then she's talking to Zhu, and then things get bad. There's a fight, and
with Jim, who is Carla's a guy that she's helping write a book.
Right. But she really is just helping him write a book.
Well, that's right. Well, I think Jim has designs.
No, yeah. Any dude who says to a woman who's going through trouble, "Do you want to talk about it?" is somebody trying to get laid. They're not a person that you should trust.
He doesn't care.
He doesn't want to talk about it.
No.
He's just willing to.
You're right, exactly.
If it'll get him somewhere. So Zhu and Carla break up officially. Like, I never want to see you again, angry shit. And it's all just misunderstandings, Mark.
And the hacked emails.
And the hacked emails, right?
Which they actually don't refer to until much later in the picture. But at this point, the idea is that Laney's hack that at Jody Lynn O'Keefe's command had them being like, well, fine, like, I want to see other people and you suck and blah, blah, blah. It was just like this whole thing, and again, they don't address it directly, but they're acting as if they both received emails from the other. So it's the whole miscommunication thing is going on here.
Yeah, they're mad at each other, but they don't know they're being grossly manipulated.
Yes.
And then, so the attempted rape happens. Yeah.
Yeah. This is an actor named Rel Hunt playing his character. His name in the credits is Nigel Danby, but he has some nickname in the movie which I don't recall. But he's on the football team, so ergo he's a rapist. That's basically what the script says.
All football guys are rapists. It's just
he's the quarterback. That's an important plot point.
That's true. That's true. Don't fuck up my arm.
Nope.
So Zhu busts into the attempted rape.
Yeah. And
tells the quarterback to fuck off.
Right.
But she is at least feigning a terrible ankle injury. So he takes her back where? To his office that has a leather couch in it.
And a fireplace too, doesn't it?
Yeah, and a fireplace.
Yeah, I think this office is the most plush college professor office I've seen in a film.
Yeah, this is not The Holdovers, you guys.
No doubt about it.
So they're in there and they do it, which is not what the guy in the first Devil in the Flesh. She just is obsessed with him and he keeps pushing her away. In this movie, the weakness happens.
Well, this is what I was alluding to earlier, is that Zhu Garcia's character is very easily beguiled by her and seduced by her. But in almost every situation, immediately after the fact, see, these two cats are about to get in a fight right over here. Just you know, this is like, there's a cat sleeping right there who's now awake looking at me, and there's another one who's here at the window, and they know what I'm doing. They know I'm occupied. So just gonna say that
they're gonna fight.
They are, and we're just gonna let it run for the show. This is for entertainment purposes only. So,
cats are gonna be cats. There's nothing.
They are. So Zhu Garcia, I will say, as the movie progresses and these scenes of her, trying to kind of draw him in and mess with his relationship with Carla, he's not above reproach as far as this movie goes. I mean, it's like at about the midpoint, or at least the beginning of Act 3, it's like, about 40% or 50% of what happens is his fault, because he's sending mixed messages to everyone.
Well, and also like one bottle of wine split between the two of them, and he's making these horrible judgments.
Yeah.
What a fucking lightweight.
This guy, if this were at all a real situation, this guy is like an HR nightmare as an instructor at a college. I mean, just gonna say,
should get fired.
She's not innocent either, but he's not. No.
Yeah. So they do it, and then he pulls the douche move of going, this was a mistake.
That was a mistake. Yeah,
we're drunk. And then she gets sad. And I do like her when she gets sad in this movie. It's such a like tantrum, like a toddler level tantrum.
Yes.
It really works for me. I think it's great. And so then she winds up, she's got to go back to the dorm, and she's having difficulty because the RA's got fucking she's blackmailing her basically.
Yeah.
Telling her she's going to get kicked out. And then Jodie Lynn O'Keefe says, thinking, pretending that she's this Carlet person. She says, well, how much is it going to take to shut you up? And she says 10 grand. And then Jodie Lynn O'Keefe argues. And then the RA
says, argues or makes a smart remark about it or something.
And then she says, okay, 20 grand. Do you want to keep talking? And so the answer is no. And then the other answer is, I'm putting a blow dryer into the shower with you.
Right.
And this, like what we were talking about before, I can't remember if it was before the show or on the show, but
that's the scene I was talking about where the RA takes that towel off before she steps in the shower, and just at the edge of the screen, she's blurred out.
Yes.
Which was it stood out for the type of movie it was, that it was an odd thing, but obviously there was probably some legality.
What was well, I think actually, she had a no nudity clause.
Yeah.
So she was wearing, boob merkins. I don't know what you call,
just
boob merkins. Like they're just white patches that were taped onto her boobs. And because of the 1:3:3 to 1 aspect ratio, they caught a little bit of that white pad. So that's what they were trying to blur out.
I see. Okay.
Which, it's fine. They got all
it's neither here nor there. She was going to die a minute later anyway. A couple seconds later.
Right in the shower. So she electrocutes her.
You see that hair dryer in the sink when they walk in. You're like, oh no.
No, there's no way. Yeah, it's the Chekhovian blow dryer.
That's right. That hair dryer should have been above the mantle. in the professor's office a couple scenes back.
Yeah, and then and so then there's obviously the cops are there to investigate the murder. I just like, honestly, what I'm doing in this scene is just looking at Jodie Lynn O'Keefe.
Okay.
In the like most scared, if like you watch it, I'm constantly trying to keep my eyes at their eyes, and I keep looking down, because one of the things that about this movie is Deputy Toby had almost no lines. He's just there with his dad. So in so many scenes, I don't say much. And in this one, I just decided to make it about being horny. I don't know why. It's an exploitation film. I don't know why. It amused me.
You knew what was going on, and it's like you needed to spice up the energy level for as awesome as Bill Grattan was in this movie. He's pretty steady.
He's the real deal.
People are dropping like flies in your jurisdiction, sir.
Yeah, he's got a lot of trouble.
Yeah,
and I'm an idiot. But what a great character to get to play. So, and then also the line at the end of it that they kept it. They didn't keep my puking in the film, but they kept some of my ad libs. And the ad lib at the end of this was just me going, because she says we're just a couple of cherubs, and I look at my dad and say, "What the fuck is a cherub?"
I did see that. I was chuckling quite a bit. I was
And
like,
I did that, in a take just to try and make Bill laugh.
Yeah.
And they kept it.
Did he laugh? Did he laugh?
He didn't, because he never corpsed. He would wait until it was done. I mean, I was doing so many fucked up things. We'll have a video scene later. Just like I was just fucking with Bill. It was like it was so much fun. He was game and delight. Here's another great shot in the movie. I mean, like, who takes time out in a low budget exploitation movie to set this shit up?
That shot's like a very 50s/60s kind of a thing.
Yeah, totally. It's like very film noirish,
Yeah.
So we have the hands holding the compact mirror, and we see her spying on the two.
I wonder how this movie would play in black and white.
Oh, that's a good idea.
I did, I mean, like, why not?
Yeah, that's a really cool idea. I'm gonna try to steal it, and then I'll put it through my editing system. And
do it, and see what. Just pick up a couple scenes, just see what happens. I mean, I think it would, especially in that building, where the buildings where they shot this. It would be like that. That would be. I don't know. It wouldn't make it. I don't know if it would make it better, but it'd be kind of interesting, to do it.
So she sees them in the back in the office, the fancy office, and they're working things out, and it makes
like, I love this doesn't he start he's making out with Carla, or they're just they're having sex in the office, right?
Desk sex. I made a point of not clipping any nudity scenes.
No, I don't know if there was any nudity in that one.
No, she's naked, and it was weird the way it's shot, because I thought, like, at a certain point I was like, oh, it's a body double,
right?
Because you don't see anything from the neck up in a couple of shots, but then later in the sex scene you see her. It's her.
Well, I'll tell you, the thing that that gets me about sometimes the sex scenes in low budget movies in particular is in this one he swipes everything kind of off the corner of the desk. The phone goes off the corner of the desk and blah blah blah. And I'm like, this is your office.
Yeah,
you're gonna have to fucking clean all that shit up afterward. But immediately on top of that thought, they cut to a shot of Jody Lynn O'Keefe, who's outside.
Jeff's just saying it would be cool if you could it was a function of your
really
TV.
Should be. I mean, the thing can do enough stuff. It tries to turn classic films into video because of this setting for sports, like the True Motion setting or whatever it's called on different TVs. I will admit to the audience that we have, however big or however small it is, that when that first became a feature on TVs around 2009 or 10, I bought a TV and I didn't know anything about that. And I put in an old movie, was The Omega Man with Charlton Heston, which I'd seen several dozen times. And it comes up and it has that video sheen that looks like a sitcom from the 80s. And I didn't know how to do anything about it. I took the TV back and actually bought a different TV because I could not. I had no idea there was a setting in the TV that would change it back.
I can't tell you how many times I'm at a relative's house or a friend's house and they put on the TV and the motion smoothing is on.
Oh, yeah.
I'm like, you have to take this off. And they're like, what? And I'm like, do your eyes not work? Can you not?
Every Airbnb I've ever stayed in, I've turned that off on the
TV. Yeah. Hotels all the time. Yeah. You got to turn up. They don't do that. They should.
In this particular scene, though, they cut to Jody Lynn O'Keefe looking outside. Before this, she has an expression on her face. She like, ooh,
yeah,
like I didn't win the lottery, or I was one number off on the lottery. Not like, this guy who she's been campaigning for is back in the arms of his previous lover, and you know where she's. I mean, she's a cold, calculating murderer. You know, and she's like, ooh.
Yep.
She's like that gif of the little girl with the hairbrush. You know, that people post.
So then the cops are called because the rock is thrown through the window.
Absolutely.
And
That's
there
the
we
rock
are
right there.
This is my favorite
You
moment.
are contaminating evidence.
Yeah, this is my favorite moment from the film. The way Bill looks at okay.
The rock.
What happens is Hugh Garcia says, well, aren't you going to take that for fingerprints? And I immediately pick it up and I give it a little toss in the air like a little ball and catch it. And Bill's face is so deadpan. And he realizes I've fucked up a crime scene. And he just sort of says, no, I don't think we'll find anything on that. And then my reaction is to just throw it back down on the floor, which was, I did not ask if I could do that. I just did it. And once again, they kept it. What? I was just fucking around on this movie. I had so much fun. It was really, really a blast. And so, okay, so that happens. The cops can't do anything about the rock. And then we're back and Laney's having trouble at the dorm. And they fight. And then she inadvertently trips and falls out of a window.
Oh yeah. Well, she's going to call the police. She's figured out that Jody Lynn O'Keefe has killed at least one or two people, and she's got the phone, and it's an old phone with a cord, so that's key, you know, for young kids who may be watching the show or this movie who don't understand, and then you know then the cord snaps and out she goes. And you know, for being on maybe the third floor of that building, they cut. That scene is cut as if she's falling from a skyscraper.
Yeah, it's like towering inferno.
Her scream just continues on, and you know, and it's a shame because she almost missed the sidewalk.
Yeah. Yeah. It was a great stunt, though.
Oh yeah,
that was a real person and not a dummy. So they may, you know, if you have a stunt like that, it's like in the 80s, you know, in action movies, if they blew up a building, you'd see it blow up 8 times in a row.
Oh yeah,
from all the different angles, and that's sort of, I feel like they got this awesome stunt, so they were just going to show all of it.
I am not slamming them at all. Like as is the at the heart of every shitty movie is that it was this entertaining, and oh hell yes,
yeah, hell yeah. Yeah, that's great. And then of course
this is your big moment right here.
Yeah, you know what's funny about this is this scene I had to do ADR on it because the sound didn't work. I think because we're hugging and she was fucking up my mic.
Oh, so, okay, right. Yeah, it was
the first time that I'd ever done looping, and it was so confusing. I was like, does that work? Does it work? And you watch the movie, of course it works. It looks fine. But you know, in the looping studio, watching it's like a giant version of you that you're looking at, and you've got headphones on. You got to listen to beeps and then recreate the dialogue and try to pretend you're there, even though you're in this weird room with a giant picture of yourself in front of you. It's hard. That's one of the hard things to do as an actor.
I read stories about some ADR stuff that in the 1960s, you know, at least, but you know, before kind of modern technology that we have today, is that you know, they were grabbing lines in between takes for subsequent episodes. So it'd be like, duck down behind this wall and here's a microphone and say this line.
Right.
And like, there's no picture, there's no nothing. And it could have been weeks ago that you did the episode.
That's hilarious. Yeah, ADR is an interesting thing. I have more fun. The first few times I did it, it was terrifying, but I'm fine with it now. So you can call me.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's good to know. Good to
Yeah.
know.
So the investigation continues with our favorite sheriff and deputy. This guy at the bar
There's
is
wiping a dry
Richard.
bar, which I noticed, by the way.
What's that?
He's wiping a dry bar.
Well, yeah, it's fine. Idle hands, or doesn't the devil do something to idle hands? So
yes.
Yeah. So you got to keep working. But
the devil's hands, idle hands pick up rocks at crime scenes.
That's right. So the bartender in this scene and an earlier scene is played by Richard Brandis himself, producer of Devil in the Flesh, and Devil in the Flesh too. And this is another scene where I had no lines. So I was like, well, what should I do? And I just made it about snacking. I'm
oh my God.
I'm eating olives out of the little, the little bar thing.
That's fantastic.
Why not? It's really what I was doing throughout this film is making mountains out of molehills, which is maybe a bad habit. But
I feel like there was a little bit of that in pre-production too. Just gonna say it, right?
Yeah, for sure. So, and that leads them back to Zhu Garcia. But before we get to them questioning him, Jodi Lynn O'Keefe shows up. There's like a fantasy sex scene here that's not real. And then when Zhu actually shows up, he tells her to F off. She gets sad and leaves. And then later, the sheriff and Deputy Toby are questioning him about her whereabouts.
Yeah.
And she had just been there. And I have a clip of this very scene. Let me show it to you. Here it is.
The bartender said he saw you talking to her last night.
Well, she's a student of mine. I spoke to her briefly during the break. What's this about?
Well, we think that she may have been...
We just wanted to ask her a few questions. We haven't been able to find her. Any idea where she might be?
Well, as a matter of fact, she was here a few minutes ago, and she left.
She was here? Do students do that a lot? Come over to your house?
Sure. Sometimes.
Do you know where she might have gone now?
I don't know. She seemed pretty upset, so I assume she just...
She seemed upset? Why?
Misunderstanding. Sheriff, what is this about?
This girl may be in a lot of trouble, Professor.
I was like waiting to see if you were going to reprise your role or not, and I see that you've given yourself a promotion.
I did. Well,
that was great.
I just thought it would be really funny to have my son play my part, and I'd be the dad. It kind of makes sense.
No, it works. It works.
Yeah. So that questioning leads them to this other house where they're trying to get in, and what's happening inside is the climax of the film. Jodi Lynn O'Keefe first has a giant knife, and then she gets a gun, and she's pointing it at Zhu and Carla, and Zhu says, "No, she's gonna have my baby,"
right?
Which is one of my favorite line readings in the movie.
Which is not what you tell somebody who's jealous of your relationship who has a gun and is unstable, right?
Yes. Yeah, but he'd already told her that. So here he is just reaffirming, don't shoot her. And then what happens?
Deputy. Well, I think the sheriff comes in, right, and gets stabbed.
He gets stabbed. Yep.
And of
Well,
course
he gets stabbed, and then she gets his gun, and then
right, and then
he's
she
already-
said Deputy Toby's coming around through the back door and shows up right then.
and she shoots
Boom.
him.
Which I was like, this is a great shot, man. Like I was just like, whoa. And it's just like you do that great, man. Just like boom, back
Thanks. Yeah, it's such a like so this was an actual squib. Which is this is the only time I've ever been squibbed. And they don't really do that much anymore because they just put computers.
Oh, they do? Oh,
yeah, okay. Like when people get shot now, if you pay attention to it, it just looks like an animation.
Yeah. The digital blood I've seen, but I haven't really noticed the other one. But yeah,
I mean, I think squibs look so much better, but
sure.
they're very dangerous. So I imagine it's better for insurance reasons to go cartoon. So and squibs are, for those of you who don't know, squibs are little explosives. They're like, more powerful than a firecracker, but they're, they blow out. And when I was getting it put on me, the demolition expert guy, who wasn't unlike Danny McBride in Tropic Thunder, was just explaining to me. So it's really important that it's facing out, face it towards the enemy. In other words, because if we put it on backwards, it will kill you.
Yeah.
Because it would have blown my chest out. So I was like,
or in rather, or in.
Oh, yeah, yeah, out through the back, I guess is what was blown.
Could have been dead. Out. So that would have been that.
Yeah. So it is a risky thing. But what we didn't have, even though we had the practical effect of squibs, is we didn't have the wires that they have now. So when friends of mine see this now, they're like, nice jump back, because that's how you did it before wires. You just and it was pretty simple, because
now they if they have people kind of pull you,
people will yank you, so it looks more like a really powerful gun blew you off your feet, which isn't realistic at all. No. It's probably more realistic that you just drop. But cinematic, you have to jump back, which was honestly very exciting. I had a really good time.
It was an exciting shot to watch.
Yeah, it was cool. And originally, Toby died, but they decided on the day that they were going to reveal that he's not dead. So they open my shirt and I'm still alive and I'm wearing a vest, and I say, thank God my dad made me wear that vest. My real life dad watched this movie on when it premiered as an HBO guilty pleasure on Friday night. He watched it, and when he called, he said, yeah, I saw that Devil in the Flesh too. A lot of nudity in that film, and you look bloated. So I was glad when they revealed that you had a vest on, and that's why you look bloated. But the problem is I wasn't wearing a vest in any other shot. When I get shot, I'm not wearing a vest. They put that in after.
Thanks, Dad.
Thanks, Dad. I really need to go on a diet, huh?
Yeah, I appreciate that, Dad. Thanks.
I mean, in my defense, my metabolism had just changed and become very slow at the same time that I had booked my first national commercial, and I was making enough money where I could go out and drink Guinness and eat steak. So yeah,
it was a combination of factors.
There was a lot going on. But my dad thought I looked bloated. Anyway, so that's basically how
you need to put that needs to be on your resume somewhere, like in quotes, I saw that. No,
you look bloated.
Yeah. And then
So
from your
that's
dad, the blurb from your dad.
that's basically the end of the movie. Toby's
Yeah.
not dead. Dad's not dead. And
neither is
neither Carla or Zhu are dead. Everybody's
Right.
alive.
although honestly, it's like her name's Debbie, but obviously everybody calls her Tracy during the movie.
Right. Right. And then you have the like postscript moment where she cons her way into another car. And
and it's like the explanation of how she got from a residential neighborhood to the middle of nowhere.
There's none. It just cuts to that. Which I'm all for.
I'm thinking roller skates.
Why not?
Rollerblades.
Yeah, why not? Or like a scooter, skateboard, something.
This could have been. Yeah.
But it doesn't matter because she's in the car and
she's ready to run
Carlet.
another con. Yeah, she's going to do it again.
Yeah, and Mr. Carlet is going to the college she got away from because nobody can find his daughter.
Right.
And she's in some kind of trouble.
Yes.
I'm sad for the guy because she's dead. She's got like a bar through her chest.
Which apparently she went for days at that gas station without being discovered. Because there's at least how many day or night, like a week.
It was an out of the way gas station that still had pumps from the 1950s. So people.
Well, that's true, and and it's like the attendant. What he's focusing on.
Right, exactly, and he feels comfortable to do the sex because nobody ever comes by.
Right, it's a gas station that doesn't actually sell gas.
No, it's just for people to have sex in.
Well, this is the thing. It's like I saw the sign, when she stops at the gas station. I know we're going back to the beginning of the movie, but there's a sign hanging there that says restrooms, keys inside. And my first thought was, well, how much fucking sense does that make? And I'm like, oh, you mean inside the other?
Inside the other.
Yeah,
it's not inside the
bathroom. No, not locked in the bathroom. Like, come on. That's crazy. So writers aren't sharp all the time.
No.
Family, people at home.
So I guess the end of the movie is kind of happy in a weird way because it's not like one of those, the killer's still alive and going to keep killing. She's about to get in trouble. She got in the wrong car.
But is she? I thought she's starting to scam her way into killing them.
Maybe, but he's taking her back to the college where everybody's looking for her because she's a murderess. So, I mean, she's probably going to kill the limo driver and Carly, most likely. Anyway, that's
because that's what I got from it was the same kind of, how she got into the original Carly's car.
Yeah, that's true. Well, I don't know. Maybe there'll be a Devil in the Flesh 3 someday to end.
I feel like this might be an opening for us.
Yeah, let's make Devil in the Flesh 3.
Think so, man.
Bring both original casts back together.
That's it. And when Tracy comes back, we're going to pitch her.
Yeah, we'll get Jodie Lynn O'Keefe and Rose McGowan to play like partner psycho chicks. I love it.
Oh yeah.
Do you have any final thoughts about this movie? There's my name, Deputy.
There he is, Deputy Todd Robert Anderson. I went to look for this movie to watch it, and I didn't relax until I saw your name in the opening credits. And I was like, okay, this is the right one. Not that there might be a Devil in the Flesh 2 that you're not in.
That's right one.
But I will say, like I was saying before, there's a scene where Jodie Lynn O'Keefe confronts Zhu Garcia, and it's in the house there, and I think it's in the house. It's either in the house or in his office at one point. But he's like, no, I just I don't know what you've got in your head, blah blah blah. But this is my relationship, and she's still willing to give him the benefit of the doubt. She's killed a number of people to be with him, and and he's still kind of like, yeah, maybe I'm hot for you, but I love this other person. And it's all very confusing. And you're just kind of like, he needs, like, I would have, if she's the killer, I would have killed him. Like, I really would have, if I was, because he is the most indecisive. I was like, he has to be, this is the prototypical handsome California male who has so thoroughly polluted the dating pool out here that it's almost impossible to meet somebody because he's like, oh, I don't. Yes, no, I don't know. Come on.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah.
that's where I stood on. I was like, there is a through line of realism here that I don't think the producer or the writer producer knew that he was tapping into at the time. This movie spoke to me in that regard. As somebody who's single and dating in Los Angeles, wow.
Yeah, that's not easy.
Yeah.
I don't miss that time. I wound up dating some pretty crazy people. Like ex biker gang chicks from Yugoslavia.
Wow.
Like, yeah, who were married. Turned out it was crazy. I didn't know she was married, and then I picked her up at her house, and I walked in the living room, and there were all these pictures of her and a man. And I was like, who's the guy in all these photos? She's like, oh, that's my husband.
That's where you you look over and there's the guy with a record player and he drags the needle. Like,
yeah, I'm like, what? What? Oh no. That seems bad. My final thought on this movie.
I enjoyed it. It was good, and not just because you were in it, but it was completely entertaining because you're like, what are they going to come up with next?
Yeah, and it's well paced and tight enough and well acted and
well, and we said it at the top too, like you said, the well acted I think is number one because like everybody was like fucking into it.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
I mean, it was really
and the director was too. Like he was like with his limited budget was coming up with anything he could to add to the scenes and he did
wonderfully. I thought
he did. He should. This should not be his only movie, but it is.
Oh, that's a shame.
Yeah, well, I don't know. There might have been some behind the scenes tensions. There's always those that I find out later after I made the movie. I was like, oh, I had no idea those people weren't getting along.
Oh, but no.
that may have, he may have had a bad experience, and that's why.
I have a friend who's a director who did a Western several years ago. And I think they had one or two horses. And he would, he told me there was a scene where they're in some town in the Midwest and, in the 1800s. And, he's like the horse would go by and almost as soon as he's like, they had the edges of the frame marked out, when the horse would go by, like there would be people that would like fucking airbrush and like change the rigging and turn the horse around. There'd be one rider would come off and another would get on and they'd ride back the other way. And it was only for a couple of minutes, a couple of seconds, but he was like, it's kind of the ingenuity that really pulls it off.
I think that's a huge thing. And just the movies in general right now, there really aren't enough mid-budge movies. I mean, it's all these, you talk about a low budget movie that costs $80 million. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Like actual movies that have lower budgets where the lower budget forces creatives to be more creative.
Oh yeah. Well, when you've got these 9-figure monstrosities where people are like, they'll burn 6 months and $500,000 on a shot they're not going to use because they changed their mind, not because they thought of something better. They just want to do it differently.
Want to do it. Yeah. It's bananas. So yeah,
I agree with you there big time.
Low budget movies are a great place to look for actual artistry and ingenuity. And certainly Marcus Spiegel on Devil in the Flesh 2 did an amazing job. And I just want to end our discussion on this by telling you this story, Mark, because this is one of the reasons I act, is to have these stories. And so this movie came out, as I said, on the HBO Guilty Pleasure on Friday, back when there was a thing called HBO. Now it's like Max, I guess.
Yeah.
But back then it was just a thing you got from cable. You paid for it. And on Friday nights, they showed these, original trashy movies that were premiering on HBO. Those were some good days, the HBO days. So a friend of mine from college called me like out of the blue. And he left a message on my answering machine because I didn't answer the phone. And he was upset. He was
About what?
Well, he sounded almost livid. He's like, look, man, I was watching this movie on HBO last night with Jodie Lynn O'Keefe. All right. And there was a lot of nudity, and I think she's really hot. And I was about to get my wank on, and then it cuts to you. And you ruined my wank. Now I can't wank to Jodie.
Why? How this was not part of the marketing for this episode? I
wanted to save it for the actual show.
You could have put boner killer in your title there.
Hashtag boner killer. Yeah, I think that's so funny that you would call your friend and admit that you were masturbating to exploitation film on
my
HBO.
God, dude, that's the best. Oh my God,
And two, why did I ruin it? Just keep it going. All right, let's do.
I don't know what happened to the lights in my room.
Yeah, you have a cool glow about you. Let's do Be Bad or Be Best. This is both Mark and I have picked titles, and we're going to ask each other if these movies are so bad no one should watch them, or they're so bad it's awesome. Hence, Be Bad or Be Best. I'll have you go first, Mark.
What did I pick? Oh yes, this is my which one is this? This is Be Bad or Be Best?
Be Bad, Be Best.
Yeah, this is the Clint Eastwood classic, mountain climbing classic, the Eiger Sanction. And I love this movie. I've watched this movie a dozen times, and it's just a mess. Like plots, character wise, there's Jack Cassidy as this flamboyant killer in the middle of the picture, just pops in out of nowhere, and you're like, why are you even here? And there's this the basic setup is that Clint Eastwood is a former U.S. government assassin who has this incredibly weird controller who has a weird blood disease, who can't be exposed to light. He's like a weird kind of heavyset albino, and you're like, what the fuck is happening in this movie? But the climbing sequences and a score by John Williams of all people. You watch this movie and you're like, it feels like this should be serious. But there's so many things that make it unserious.
Well, and so often it seems like nobody's taking it seriously, including Clint Eastwood. Many
people in the movie, yes, are not taking it seriously either.
Yeah, it's definitely. I mean,
breathtaking photography, and the climbing sequences are pretty stunning.
Yeah, for sure. But it does have like a lot of slow parts. It's it's like I call this the Clint Eastwood Firefox era, where he made.
This was the beginning of it. Yeah, this was like mid to late 70s and 70s.
Yeah, and Firefox is early 80s. Yeah. It's too long. It's meandery, and there are long swaths where nothing happens.
Yes.
The reason, and I like Firefox, and I'll watch the Eiger Sanction again eventually because I just like Clint Eastwood movies, despite myself. So in a way, it's Be Best, but I'm also tempted to say it's Be Bad, because this is easily the most homophobic Clint Eastwood movie that he ever made, and that's saying a lot.
Yeah. But especially with the Jack Cassidy character.
There are so many homophobic insults, jokes throughout the.
It's almost all of them from that era. This movie.
Yeah, it's the comic bent of this movie is gay people.
And for the character that is the butt of all of these jokes, I mean, he's a lethal assassin, but he is incredibly flamboyant as Jack Cassidy was in real life, but the actor who plays him. But in this movie, this character arrives and departs all within Act Two, and all of these jokes are in there. The idea is that Eastwood's gotten some information from him, but it's just, you're kind of like, wow, this was a different era of filmmaking.
Yeah, I mean, the 70s and 80s. I mean, it was like,
well, and it starts at the beginning though too, because at one point, Eastwood's character is in Switzerland, and pretends to be a gay delivery guy. And he puts on this kind of fake accent and just, well, what am I supposed to do? And it's like, oh God, Clint Eastwood, no.
Stop. You cannot do
so many horrible things in this movie, but yeah, it's like, I think it's a B bad, to be honest with you.
Yeah, it probably
I still watch it. There's parts of it that I like, and just, there's something about feature films from previous now centuries. But previous decades where, they're especially films that are supposed to be contemporary, where you get this kind of sense of fashion and politics and what was happening in the world at the time. And you're just like, wow. It's like, and every generation thinks they are, it's like every decade you're like, wow, we're the best we've ever been at this point. And you're like, no, not really. I mean,
you go back and you watch movies from the 70s, movies from the 80s, that if you're Gen X and you grew up on these things, it's amazing how much homophobia is. Like homophobia, transphobia, casual racism, they're all jokes in these movies all the time.
Yeah.
Never mind, misogyny and like sexual assaults being played off as, comic bits. There was just like in the dialogue alone, there was so much.
Yeah, you're like, I mean, and even some of these movies now that are held up as classics, and it's like they were made at a different era, and that's all understandable. But you're watching it, you're just like, damn,
Well, and it's like whenever I hear, people on social media or whatever lamenting, you can't say anything anymore. Like one, that's not true,
right?
Like you go back and you watch old Smothers Brothers, and those fucking guys were edgy and constantly in trouble with the network. And you watch them now, and you're like, anything they say it's like a dad joke at this point. It's
right.
It's not a bit. We can say all that shit. The only thing we can't say is, racist phrases, homophobic. We can't say bigoted phrases anymore without getting blowback. You can say them because, First Amendment, blah, 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 but you're going to get blowback, and then cancel culture and all that. And I just think it's bullshit because who cares? Yeah. It's like what we were talking about, low budget filmmaking. Okay, so you can't make the obvious homophobic joke here. So you're going to have to be creative and figure something else out.
Well, I've seen, and I mean, I think that certainly if you're doing a contemporary piece, I think that's very true. But like in some cases, I think if you're doing something that is set in a previous era, it becomes hard to do.
That's true.
Because you're like, how can I portray a character that's a bigot without them saying bigoted things?
Yeah, I mean, that's a fine line. I do think, look at a lot of the Oscar noms, Best Pictures had plenty of stuff.
Oh yeah,
well, where the bigots were openly bigoted.
Well, the one that stands out for me above a lot, and I think it's just because there was a little bit of a kerfuffle over, Gene Hackman as Popeye Doyle in The French Connection. He was one of the first kind of anti-hero cops. He was a bigot. He was a bigot, misogynist, the whole thing, and says some very bigoted things early on in the film, so you can size up like what a lowlife this character really is.
Yeah,
and that's the kind of thing where it's like, how do you? I mean, I'm not advocating doing these things, but it's like if you have a kind of an anti-hero cop set in the 70s, if you were doing that again, it's like, you have to, I think this is where we were talking a few minutes ago about like, how can you be creative? This is where you get creative.
Well, and I think
you can demonstrate that stuff without that
right.
kind of, what I'm talking
but
about.
Also, I mean, I think it's tonal too. I mean,
Sure.
If you're making a movie about a bigoted cop in the 70s now, I think you can have him say all those words. As long as you're like tonally, that's what this guy is. He's a piece of shit. Like
yes,
you're saying,
right.
Like a Popeye Doyle. So if that's clear and people are oversensitive about that, then that's on them.
Well, there's a thing too.
I think in these older movies,
yeah.
they're go-to easy jokes.
Yes,
and that's when it becomes problematic.
Yeah, and I think you're onto something there, and I think too that one of the things I've always tried to do is like if I do have something I'm writing that has an anti-hero type character in it, I feel like there's a book balancing that needs to happen. Like, that it's like, that bigoted police officer's commanding officer may be like, you stopped this guy, but you still got to answer for this other shit that you said and did, and
right.
all this other kind of stuff. So there is some balancing that goes out, either that or that character has to go through some kind of arc or transformation a little bit. They're not going to come out the other side being,
right.
completely
and Clint Eastwood in the Iger section does not learn to not be a homophobe.
Oh, well, if anything, this movie goes in the exact opposite direction. And it's like everybody who was in a lane is calcified in that lane. There are no, actually, if you kind of running down the list in my head of the characters, it's like, this is one of those movies where you can point out, it's like nobody learns anything. Like there's no arc for any character in this movie. It is strictly kind of an action thriller type thing, which, Clint was like, I've never climbed a mountain before. Let's do a movie. Yeah, let's do that.
Yeah, he can do whatever he wants. All right, here's my be bad, be best for you. Yes. I went with another Psycho Lady movie.
Look at that cast.
Yeah, Mother's Boys, starring Jamie Lee Curtis. I was thinking about Tracy too when I picked this.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever talked to her about Mother's Boys. Have you ever seen it?
No, I haven't. No.
Like you can't. It's not out on DVD or anything. It's like a VHS only movie for some reason. But it's a delightful B thriller. For me, it's dumb and over the top in a lot of places.
Yeah.
But it's fun.
Once Tracy's back, we need to have some kind of not available on streaming or DVD watch party of some sort.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, I'll have my dark web friend check and see if there's Mother's Boys out there anywhere.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like it's a movie I would buy.
Yeah.
I
love the fact that it's like Jamie Lee Curtis just like worked all the time and like did all kinds of stuff. Just work.
Yeah. And so, some of it was ridiculous. Some of it was, great. What was that cop thriller? Blue Steel.
Oh God, yeah, with God, what was his name? Ron Silver.
Silver, yeah.
Yeah. Who was everywhere for that? Didn't he when he was on the West Wing, wasn't he? Later seasons, wasn't he the political consultant to the president? I think
he might have been. I mean,
I'm pretty sure he was.
He died kind of young, I think.
Yeah.
But he was in he was in The Arrival with Charlie Sheen.
Which that's a movie that we should probably do if you haven't already done it.
Oh no, I don't think we have. Another great one, Time Cop. Ron Silver's in that.
Oh hell yeah,
he's the bad guy.
Spoilers? No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, sorry. Little known, a pilot that didn't go to series. and you can find this. I think it might even be on YouTube, but it's called Heat Vision and Jack. And it's Owen Wilson rides on a bike, a motorcycle that is a motorcycle that talks, and it's voiced by Jack Black.
Oh, is this like a super vehicle type thing?
Sort of, yeah.
Okay, all right.
Like it's a super silly, action comedy show.
Yeah.
And Ron Silver plays, he's the bad guy. He's like the the head of Spectre type of guy. He's Blofeld.
As you'd expect from Ron
yeah,
Silver.
Yeah, Ron Silver's basically Blofeld. But in the show, he's playing Ron Silver. And he's, a secret agent of the bad guys. And Ron Silver, the actor, is his cover.
Nice. Okay.
It's very funny. I highly recommend it. I wish they had made a series out of it. It would have been good. Anyway, let's do the indie effect now.
Yes.
I have my Raiders of the Lost Ark poster. This is a segment that was made up by a frequent guest in front of the show, John Keating. And in it, it's about a character in a movie who's completely unnecessary. A lot of people say that Indiana Jones and Raiders of the Lost Ark, if he hadn't been in the movie, it still would have turned out the same way it did. So that's, it's an interesting point. I don't care. I still like Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Yeah.
But so we have our unnecessary characters. I'll go first this time. My guy is a character in Better Off Dead. The great Stephen Williams plays a tree trimmer in that movie. I'm a big Steve Williams fan. He does a great job in Jason Goes to Hell, the Friday the 13th movie that all the Friday the 13th fans hate and is my favorite Friday the 13th movie. He's like the Quint, but he's hunting Jason in that movie. He's great. In Better Off Dead, he has one scene. He's a tree trimmer and a garbage truck drives by, and John Cusack is in the garbage truck because he just jumped off a bridge in an attempt to kill himself and landed in a trash truck. And Williams' line is, "It's a shame people throwing out a perfectly good white boy like that." There is no reason for that. There's no reason for that character. And it's probably the funniest joke in that whole movie. And it's probably
then there was a reason. Then there was a reason if that was the
well, just have a that's
no, I know.
like,
story wise, there's no reason. Yeah, right.
That's what I'm finding. It's like last time I was talking about the two guys in Johnny Be Good who just eat live bait from a vending machine. Like those are the characters I think of first that are just there for one joke.
Right.
That has nothing to do with the rest of the movie. It's just a joke that they're throwing in. So, I mean, I think it's a good thing. I don't want Steve Williams to get cut out of Better Off Dead. That's not what I'm saying. But not necessary, but funny. And yours?
Yes, this is the CIA agent named Wilson, and played by Shawnette Renee. And she's from it's Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, which, was just something that came up when we first started talking about this with John, this segment with John a while back, is that when you watch that Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, a lot of people have a lot of problems with this movie. I really enjoyed it. I liked it. I think it was too long by at least 25 minutes. It's
like, for me, what ruined it and made it hard for me to get into it, and you're right, it's too long, and what they should have cut is the whole beginning. All the fucking shit with this new legacy characters in a fifth movie, that you shouldn't do that.
Right.
And two, de-aging, you shouldn't do that. To have a de-aged Harrison Ford for 25 minutes, it just like took me out of it. I couldn't.
Unnecessary. Well, and this is this goes to the literal definition of what you're saying is the indie effect. Is Shawnette's character in this movie? She plays a CIA agent, and it's set in the late 60s, early 70s, if I recall correctly.
Mhm.
And she is part of the CIA unit that is somehow dealing with this Nazi character that the U.S. government has some relationship with, and literally she's in 2/3 of the movie, and if she wasn't, she has no impact on anything that happens with any of the characters. She's constantly receiving orders from Washington or reporting into Washington about what's happened, but other than that, she has absolutely no function in the movie.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, and it's a shame because I think she did pretty good with what she was given to do and would have been a very interesting character, but she was kind of one of these kind of prototypical government characters, incredibly well done, but still it's just kind of like
What's the
nothing
point?
nothing happens that she has any impact on. And
Right.
it's a shame because she could have been a cool character. You know, she'd been given a little agency of her own. No, not CIA agency, but like actual agency side, you know. But,
Yeah. Yeah, I get
so
you. It's so funny. I just rewatched that movie. Like I saw it in the theater because I, obviously huge Indiana Jones fan.
yeah.
Um, and I don't even remember anything that this woman does in that movie. And I just saw it again 2 weeks ago. So I've seen it twice and I don't remember what the hell she was doing in that movie. That's so funny. Here's my thing about Dial of Destiny. I'll just say this really fast. And then we can do the boost. But the thing is it made me, that movie made me appreciate Crystal Skull more.
Really? That's interesting.
Here's why. It's a shitty movie point. But Kingdom of the Crystal Skull is a much more interesting train wreck than Dial of Destiny because it takes way more risks and it nukes the fridge. It does in the beginning. It does all this ridiculous stuff and you're like
I'd actually say it gets into it quicker than Dial of Destiny did.
Oh
too.
yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And Dial of Destiny it seemed more reserved to me.
Comment coming out of Dial of Destiny, I saw it with a couple of friends of mine when I was visiting them out of town, and we were so excited to go see this movie because we were all Indiana Jones fans from back when there was no Indiana Jones in the title. It was just a character in the movie.
Right.
And I think about it, I said I find it odd that this is a time travel movie because if with a time travel device, it should have gotten started a lot fucking faster than it did.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, it was. There's a lot of stuff to like about Dial of Destiny.
Sure.
Certainly, like as you say, the cast is very good. It just the whole thing felt so muted to me. It's like even its colors, the way it's shot, and like in the other Indiana Jones movies, Crystal Skull included, at some point they wind in a different environment, like they go from a city to a jungle to a desert, and this movie just seemed to go from city to city to city.
Well, and and then when they got to they weren't in Egypt, they were in Greece, right? They were in Rome, no. Athens, right? Either way, you're right. It was like Manhattan had the same palette as the Mediterranean, and it was just
it was different cities, and I was like, but like one of the things that I always loved, because I just love jungle movies. I love when people are in the jungle, and Raiders of the Lost Ark starts in a jungle, it
was a very short-lived show, but one of my favorite TV shows when I was younger was Tales of the Gold Monkey.
Oh yeah, that was a great show.
It was a little riff on the whole trying to cash in on the Indiana Jones adventurer type story.
Yeah. Didn't something sad happen to the guy who started?
Oh he had some legal issues revolving around younger.
Oh, he was one of those. I always get that confused with the guy who was playing Russian roulette. who was on another
Oh,
show.
that guy was on a TV show called Voyagers. That was
Yeah,
the
yeah, yeah,
show, yeah.
All right. Well, anyway, that made me sad.
It's a good show though. It's still a good show.
I thought Mark was going to say Manimal. Jeff says yes, Manimal. I didn't understand.
Manimal was on too late for my bedtime at that time.
Oh. My grandfather recorded all the episodes of Manimal, so I'd watch them when I went to his house. I just never understood why it was called Manimal, because he only changes into like a panther, so it should have been called Manther. It's not Manimal. He should change into all different.
Called him Panimal.
Panimal, that would have been fine. That would have been better. But Manimal wasn't. It didn't make sense because I wanted more shape shifting to happen. Yeah. All right, let's wrap up on a positive note with the boost. We're gonna tell you a couple of titles of movies we think maybe you don't know about, or maybe you've forgotten about, or maybe just society's forgotten about them. But here they are. Mark will start with this picture.
The wonderful 7 Days in May, about a conspiracy to take over the government and replace the government of the United States, which I think is an incredibly timely topic, considering everything that has happened and could happen going forward.
This is happening.
This movie, written by Rod Serling and directed by John Frankenheimer, it was not billed as a science fiction film when it came out, although this movie was set about 5 years ahead of when it came out. So we're 5 years, later. So it's in the story takes place in the mid-70s, even though the movie is from the 60s. And so it's just a lot of great performances. And as far as a tension building movie that builds it and holds it for the entire time, I don't know of a better one. And, as we were talking about, there's a certain amount of economy, in terms of I will say, I'm not going to say I'm going to compare Devil in the Flesh 2 to 7 Days in May, but there was a certain economy and speed of storytelling where it's like, we're going to get into this now.
Yeah. We only have enough money to get into it.
Exactly. Yeah. And we're not going to waste our time or waste the audience's time, which is, I think, something that the gigantic, behemoth movies that we get nowadays don't really think about that too much.
No, they don't.
If at all.
Yeah. My boost is this movie.
Oh, yeah.
From the director of Red Rock West, which is also a movie I love. The Last Seduction. Linda Fiorentino and Peter Berg in this movie are amazing. And I picked this, because I was trying to come up with another Psycho lady movie, and this is a Psycho lady movie. And in a lot of ways,
that's why you're the official host, because you have this thematic thread where I'm just picking shit at random.
I have things. I have, an agenda. This is a very great movie. It's almost Body Heat again. If you like that movie with William Hurt and Kathleen Turner, it's sort of like an updated Body Heat. It's very great. Fiorentino is somebody, like, she was in a bunch of movies. She was great. She often played a femme fatale, and then she was in Men in Black, and then it was no more Linda Fiorentino. And I would like to have her back, please.
Yeah.
She's great. Was
she in a movie called Jade?
Yes.
Yeah, it was one that it was kind of a strange, odd movie, but I liked her in it.
Yeah, Jade is the one with CSI Miami guy.
David Caruso.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, she was in a lot of erotic thrillers. That was sort of her typecast thing, She's really funny in Men in Black. So I would just like to say to Hollywood, bring me back Linda Fiorentino. She was fantastic. And actually actor Peter Berg, I miss him. I'm fine with Battleship. I'll watch Battleship. I don't care. Direct whatever you want, Peter Berg. But I liked him on camera. Like this movie, Shocker. what's the alien movie? Falling from the sky, it's got all those people in it, and it's got James Garner. Fire in the Sky. Fire.
Oh God, yes, yeah.
That's a great movie.
Was that based on a book? Based on a book.
Yeah, and I like allegedly a true story.
Yeah, yeah.
And the movie's just about James Garner's cop is questioning all the people involved, and they're telling a story about this guy who got abducted. I'm blanking on
the closest visual effect we can get for aliens.
Yes, yeah, and the and the end of Fire in the Sky is, I mean, that's a PG-13 rated movie. The end of that movie is one of the scariest alien abductions.
I might have to rewatch that. I haven't seen that in a very long time, maybe since it came out.
Yeah, and the cast is great. It's got, like Terminator 2 guy is in it, Robert Patrick.
We might also have to talk about we might have to do like a UFO thing at some point with like The Fourth Kind.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Movie, which it's so many weird things about it, but I like it.
I'm waiting for someone to pick Communion with Christopher Walken.
Ooh.
I'd like to have an excuse to watch that again.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway, this has been very fun. Thank you, Mark, for watching Devil in the Flesh 2, and I'm glad you enjoyed it. And
it was very entertaining, and I loved seeing you on screen. That was wonderful.
Thank you. So young, and I had all this hair. I don't have that hair anymore.
You're still doing well in that arena.
Well, yeah, as long as I don't do this.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, and Magic Mind. Thank you for sponsoring our show. Get some Magic Mind. The link is in the
comments. Go order.
And we'll see you next week on My Favorite Shitty Movie. Thank you for watching and listening. Bye.
Thanks, guys. See ya.